Things I want to say before this. First of all, you've probably seen community posts I've made. I didn't directly talk about it yet. I wanted more information confirmed before I could talk. And now I can finally talk about it, because we do have information. We do have a structure of offence, if you may use that. But first of all, I just want to address this, that it's not good enough. The two media companies now, both the radio station and the local newspaper, it's not good enough what happened Friday evening. There was no statement released by the both of them in relation to what was happening. I had to find out, many members of the public had to find out by word of mouth or on social media. That's how I found it. On social media, it wasn't the Anglo South or wasn't Northern South. It was peeps. It was a whisper. They only started reporting on it Saturday evening. And I don't think they would have reported on it, only for a lot of people on social media shared it around. It was talked about. It was literally everywhere Monday. Monday morning I went into work. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it in the county. It was something that we don't see. We've never seen in Cavan before. A person going, we thought it was a knife. He did have a knife and meat cleaver. But at the end of the day, we have to ask the question. It wasn't there. He didn't have it for no reason, basically. So that's what I'm trying to say. So he had ill intentions at heart. First of all, I just wanted to say that it's not good enough. And it's not good enough to the Gardaí in Cavan too, for not releasing the statement. I was expecting on Garda Sín O'Connor, the Cavan Monaghan Facebook page, to release a statement saying they have the man in custody. Members of the public don't have to worry about, because on Friday even, to be totally honest, where many members of the public have told me they didn't know. Nobody knew. Was he arrested? The guards get him? Was he running the streets? Nobody knew, and this is the thing. There was no information given. The Gardaí were just refused utterly to release a statement. It was they could release a small statement saying we have the suspect, members of the public can remain calm, the person's in custody, he's not going anywhere. But that wasn't even done. It was done Saturday evening. The only information that came out was Saturday evening by the Anglo South. It was put on the Facebook page and the Twitter page. But basically there was very little information. It was said the man. They used the man. Now the name is mentioned here. It's up in my community tab. I can't even pronounce it, to be totally honest with you. But just to say, it's not good enough for the local media. It's not good enough for the Garda Sín O'Connor too, in what they spouted. They are there for the public's safety and public information. They're not there to basically put out information and choose what to put out and when to put out, etc., etc. Especially because this was something that people, and a lot of people did ask me just before I say anything else. The first time in my life, I've been alive 20 years, would you believe? And the first time I ever heard in my life, people are asking, people ask me, is the town safe? And we have to be honest, there's been a few incidents the last month. I know we're not supposed to talk about what happened in October. It seemed to be media silence on it. There's been basically fuck all said about it, but that's a story for a different day. But what I'm trying to say is, to be totally honest, to answer your question, I can't really say for definite it's safe, to be totally honest. I have to be honest with you. I have to be truthful, especially with this incident. It can happen within the moment. Something can happen within the moment. It's not as safe as it used to be, and unfortunately, I have to say that. I can't say to people it's not, but So we all know what happened Friday evening. So he had a meat cleaver. A lot of people thought it was a machete. He had a knife along with that. So he was charged with possession of offensive weapon, or the offensive weapon act. Now this is a great thing that the judges decided, especially with this series, isn't it? Because again, we have to admit, he was chasing people around the streets, he was terrifying people, he was putting fear into the public, and the judge, whatever this clown of a judge is, said we should let him out on bail. Yes, we should let him out on bail. He had a meat cleaver. He was running around the town with a meat cleaver. We know what we do with him. We let him out on bail. Even though, in fairness to the Garda in Cavan, now I have to give him credit here. For what it says in the Anglo South and for what I heard, the Garda in Cavan objected to it. Yeah, they said this shouldn't happen. But the old judge, probably Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael judge, said, yeah, let him out on bail. Simple as that. He has to sign on a few times a week at the Garda station, the local Garda station. He has to surrender his passport and other travel documents so he doesn't flee the country. But it's not good enough. He shouldn't be let out. If he's willing to do this on a public street at 5 o'clock in the evening, he's willing to do it anyway. He could do it again. That's what I'm saying. He's a danger to the public. He is a danger to the public safety. I might as well say it straight, because let's be fair, running around with a meat cleaver, you're not there that's the height of bad intentions you have when you see somebody especially with the level of fear it created. It's off the scale. And this judge, to be totally honest, you have to ask yourself, does he care about public safety? This is honestly questions. I know this judge might be off in his own head or whatever the story might be, But it simply is not good enough. And again, I keep using the word it's not good enough. It's not acceptable to the members of the public of Cavan who pay their taxes, to the government, to the state, for the judge to turn around and say, oh, you know what, we let him run the streets as much as he wants. Basically, that's what's been done. Because if I was the judge, I would have said he's staying in custody. He's a risk to the public. Now, I know the Gardaí are probably watching them and stuff like that, and the soldiers should. Be totally honest, so we should. But, the level of fear, as I say, is literally still's been talked about at the moment. People are talking about it. But, and I have to just acknowledge too, the Gardaí, it was obviously the first responding Gardaí too. I just want to acknowledge that. I know it was first house on the Gardaí there a second ago, but I just want to acknowledge it that they did put themselves at risk to stop the suspect and to detain him. And only for that, God knows who he could have killed. And we have to be grateful, first of all, that he didn't kill anybody, that he didn't stab anybody, or that he didn't cause any damage. We have to be told. There was fear caused. There was people crying and people upset because he was chasing young women. That's so they say, obviously, because he was running around with a place with a meat cleaver. But it's simply not good enough. It's not good enough that what this outcome is. It's simply not good enough. So obviously he should be probably prosecuted now. He shouldn't really get off with it, to be totally honest. Well, first of all, he shouldn't really get off with it. I will place that statement. He should not get off with it at all. He should be put in prison for 3 or 4 years. At most 10 years, maybe, you could say. Because if he's willing to do this, he's willing to do whatever. Because we don't know what the situations behind it. They have mental health issues, require for help, who knows. We don't know, but the fact is that he shouldn't have been allowed to do this, and he should. We know somebody can just do it. There's no stopping somebody if somebody does it. But the fact that he was let out on bail and basically all his name seems to be forgiven. But it's a terrifying thing now. So it's not good enough. It isn't good enough. But I have the Anglo-South article. I do the only time ever would buy the Anglo-South, but it's not good enough. It isn't good enough. Yeah, so in the New Year, so they'll be sitting in the New Year, which is a clear and shut case, to be totally honest, that it seems to be developed and stuff like that. But as I said at the beginning, but I want to particularly hammer this home, this particular fact, that it should not be social media. There's media. That's why there's media companies and stuff. It should not be social media, or people find out first. So on the Gardaí and the media in general should be the first people to report on that. There was basically silence Friday night. There was people contacted me. People contacted each other to try and find out. There was images posted on Facebook, etc., etc., etc. There was people talking about the experience on Facebook and different things. And it's simply not good enough. That people had to say it because the local media will know to be found, or on Garda Síochána Conn will know what to say that an incident took place. We have the suspect. It's just the fact that I can't get over that, and especially the next bit is the icing on the cake, that he was allowed to get bail. First of all, and I just say this straight. I know I'm all over the place here, but I'm sure everybody will be all over the place. Anybody that has a gun, a knife, anything that could kill somebody, stab somebody, injure somebody in extreme ways. Now, obviously, there's different reasons some people would have a knife, like take for example, a fisherman or something like that, or if you're going fishing, understandable, but you don't have a big fucking meat cleaver. Understandable, and that will get like if you're fishing or something like that. But if you're going out with a meat cleaver and something that can cause grave damage to a person if you swung at them or hit it with them or lunged into them, you should not get bail. Simple as that. You should not be allowed out on the street. If you're willing to do that, you should not be allowed. It's simple as that. You should be remanded, and you should not be let out until your court date is set and your time you've served in prison to be let out. Then after you serve your whatever years you do in prison. But just to say, because it isn't good enough, and I keep saying it, but that's the word I use. It isn't good enough, and it should not be acceptable to the people of Cavan having to deal with this, and they're just being told to put up with it. It is not good enough, and I know a lot of people have said different things about this and etc. etc. But we have to just say it, because we can't just sit there and say nothing. Because at the end of the day, we have to admit that our country is getting dangerous. Our county has become dangerous. We know even in Cavan there's been many crimes the last 2 days. Cars have been broken up and whenever in Shelcock there's all out trouble in a small town in Shelcock outside of Cavan. We know about many other incidents. We know about, there's been 30 burglaries a few weeks ago in the week. There was a robbery out near Tractaboulders. Loads of money taken and valuables stolen in a house there. So basic crime is off the charts at the moment in our county. And it's simply not good enough. And this is just an example of, it's simply not good enough. Then we need action. We don't want politicians. There hasn't been one politician I've heard said anything yet. But particularly because again, we have done the we can't just overlook the main issue here. That the main issue is this fellow got, thank for God he didn't, but he could have attacked any member of the public on the street and seriously injured them or killed them, and we have to just say that straight. And we don't know, would that happen tomorrow, would it happen next week, somebody else do it? It's simple as that, we don't know. And that's the sad reality. Society's become extremely dangerous when we don't know. Because I remember many people before saying what happened in Dublin, particularly a few weeks ago, that it wouldn't happen here. Nobody would run around the streets and do that in Cavan and things like that. But and the sad reality is we live in a time where we can't say for certain that nobody would do it. And that's the sad reality here. Without going any further, that's the beginning and end of it. That we simply do not know, and that's the sad reality, and that's the unfortunate reality we live in. But as I say, the main thing is, and the main thing because when I heard about it the first, Friday evening, Friday night going into Saturday night, my first reaction was I was afraid people were killed, people were injured, like what happened in Dublin. A few young teenagers were stabbed, were dead. That was my first reaction. And thankfully that didn't happen. Thanks be to God it didn't happen. That nobody was seriously killed or somebody injured or killed. So we can only take our lucky stars for that. But again, you know what I'm saying. It can happen. It can happen again. I don't mean the fearmonger or anything that, but it's the world we live in, unfortunately. Thank you.